I want to thank you all for being here to celebrate Mike's life. And for those of you that I know are online, you probably are wondering we didn't make the 11 o'clock start time. It turns out there is a Plainfield homecoming parade. Mike, graduate of Plainfield Central High School, very familiar with what that traffic's like. But we are gathered here, and I want to just say thank you to everybody who is either watching online or here in person. And here in person, the immediate friends and family, your love is very much appreciated. So I want to say thank you for taking time out to be here to support this family. I really do appreciate that. And for all of those of you online, your thoughts and your prayers are very much appreciated for this family. And so I say thank you for that as well. By way of introduction, my name is John Cisniewski, and I serve here as the community pastor for Community Christian Church in Plainfield. And I know this family, and I know some of them better than I know others. And although they're recently in Tennessee, but if they were to choose a church home, this would be what they would say would be church home. And so it is an honor for myself and for our staff to host this occasion. Now, some of you may have noticed that we referred to this as a celebration of Mike's life. And that's exactly what this is. You know, sometimes you'll be in a service and it'll be referred to as a memorial service or a funeral service, and those terms are valid and those terms are appropriate. But here, I think in this Christian faith, we refer to it as a celebration of life. We are here, and I need all of your help to celebrate his life. I know only a fraction of what made him a great human being and a person. But my hunch is that many of you in this room in particular, you know so much more. In fact, a little bit later on, I'm going to ask that you be open to share some of those thoughts and some of those memories. There are two that I know will come and join me up here on stage perhaps and share a little bit more about Mike and his life. But then there are others of you, your comments, your thoughts, your stories, and your memories are going to be a way that we celebrate his life. And there may be a story for you that is sentimental, could be a story that makes us laugh, and that is entirely appropriate. I think that's one of the ways that we all need to grieve and to mourn. And so I encourage you, and when that moment arrives, there are 3 of our staff members that are going to be passing microphones around. It's important that just from where you're seated, we'll hand you the microphone so that everybody in this room can hear what you have to share. And then also anybody who's watching online is also going to be able to hear what you have to say. And what you have to say really matters. That's the reason you're here. And so you're here to encourage this family. And so I want to invite you to even be thinking of some of those favorite memories. Okay? All right. Well, to get started this morning, in fact, I spent a significant amount of time just scrolling online to learn everything I could about Mike in particular. And I didn't even realize what a big deal he was online in this fantasy football realm. And people love him. They really do. And they also had all sorts of questions when they knew that he was ill, when they knew that he had passed from this life into the next. It was interesting, if you look across the social media and the internet, everybody wants to know about Mike. And you, of course, know all about him. But they want to know everything from where was he born? Where did he go to high school? Where did he meet his wife? They want to know how tall was he, because they don't always get to see him. And they want to know how tall he is. They want to know about his children. They wanted to know how much money he makes. They wanted to know what his favorite food is. They wanted to know all these things about him. And my hunch is you're going to learn some of those things today as we celebrate his life. But if you watched him online, there is one thing that was absolutely certain about him. You didn't have to question his love for his family. And he loved his family dearly. And I want to just take a moment to introduce a few of his family members that I know personally, because they were such an important part of his life. And especially for those of you who are online who've had these questions, I want you to know what remarkable people they are. And so last night I was at the visitation, and there were pictures of Mike, and I noticed that his birthday is September 16th. So many people wanted to know, and he was born in 1982. But then I just kind of had some fun, and I thought, that makes me think that he was a New Year's Eve baby, perhaps, right? And so his mom and his dad were probably together somewhere on New Year's Eve, and there God is already knitting Mike together in his mother's womb somewhere at the very beginning of 1982. And voila, 9 months later, he is born. And his mother is here today, and she's right up here in the front. And Shirley has been a personal friend of mine, not just an attender here at Community Christian Church, but we are friends. And her and her husband, Jim, we do life together. And Shirley is a remarkable woman. And God knit him together in your womb some 39 years ago. And I want to just say thank you for loving him and raising him up in the way that he should go. He is a remarkable man, and that is in part to you and his deceased father. And so I just say thank you for that. And people want to know, well, tell me about his mother. And I think I didn't know his father, but I think he takes after you. Because Shirley has just this incredible love for God and for people. And if I read online and I read all about Mike, he just has this love for people, the kind of guy who would just do anything. And if you know Shirley, she's the same way. You can't be in her presence and not feel loved, affirmed, appreciated, valued. And I think he got that from you. And so I would just say thank you for that. Shirley is one of our leaders here, and she leads several different various small groups. One of the groups that she has led for many years in a row is our Grief Share group. Now, I would have reason to believe that maybe this is a season for you to be a part of a group and not lead a group like that, because you're grieving and your family is grieving. And maybe others here are as well. And if that's something that's of interest to you, I know that Shirley would want you to know that there's a grief group on Tuesday nights here, and there's also one on Thursday mornings. And if that's something you'd like to know more about, visit with me afterwards or go to communitychristian.info, and perhaps you can be a part of that. And Shirley has offered so much hope to people, and this is a chance for us now to offer you some much-needed hope. And then there's his wife, Tabby. And you read anything online, and she is his best friend and the love of his life. And that is just everywhere. And he said that, and his fans said that, and he often talked about her. And you're a remarkable wife. And I looked through those pictures, and you loved your husband more than life. And I know that. And I just want to say thank you for being such an amazing spouse. A God-honoring spouse you have been. And I know this is extremely difficult, but you are an amazing woman, Tabby, and I got a chance to talk with you this week along with Shirley, and I couldn't believe your composure. You were a rock, and you were just steadfast, and you had a strength for your entire family, and I know that's so very, very difficult. But an amazing woman that he fell in love with. And you're also an amazing mother, and I want you to know that, and people perhaps don't tell you that often enough, but I watched your children last night at the visitation, and they clung to you. They drew near to you because they wanted to, one, comfort you, but they were also receiving comfort for you, and you have been remarkable through all of this. And I want you to know that our prayers are for you and for your entire family. We love you. And your children are amazing as well. And Jonathan, if you know, especially if you're online, you know that he has 2 children, and Jonathan is his youngest, and he's just 4 years old. And I got to imagine that for Jonathan, this is so confusing. As a 4-year-old, how do you process? One day, I'm with my father. The next day, I'm not. And he's not here anymore. And so I know that your prayers are for this family, but would you intentionally lift up and intercede for Jonathan in this season as well? And I want you to know that if you relocate, if you're in this area as your church family, we're going to love him, and we're going to help train him up in the way that he should go. Okay? That's our commitment to you. And then Alyssa, you are a remarkable young lady, and I know you loved your father dearly. And last night, I was at this visitation, and this just gives you a peek inside his family, because so many people wanted to know some of the details about him. But, you know, Alyssa, I was visiting with you, and I noticed that you had 2 wristbands on your wrist. And I didn't recognize either one of them. And so I asked her about those. And one is just one of those, You know, blue sort of paper wristbands that you strap around your wrist and your arm hair always gets stuck in it kind of wristband. And I said, oh, what is that? At first I thought maybe you were at a concert or you had still worn it from something, but no. That was the wristband that the hospital had given you the last time you got to see your dad. And she is proudly wearing that. That is a keepsake, and it's a memory of I saw it on her wrist, and I thought, you love your father, and you are not embarrassed or ashamed of that. And as an 18-year-old young lady, that's just remarkable today. You don't see that kind of love, and you are an example for so many other young ladies of what it looks like to love their dad. And I want to say thank you for that. She had another wristband on that I had never seen. There were 4 letters on this wristband, and I asked her, I said, what are those letters? And it was the letter HWLF. HWLF. And I said, and you actually brightened up. You just sort of beamed with joy. And you're like, well, the H stands for he, meaning Jesus. He. And then the next letters, would for the W, L was love, and F is first. He, Jesus, would love first. And I know you have the Spirit of the living God in you, and you just illuminated when you talked about it. And in that moment, I recognized how much you loved your Father and how much you also loved your Heavenly Father. And so I say, what a remarkable young lady. And would you just continue to share your faith with the others, okay? Thank you for loving just the way you have. And also, I know that symbol is also a reflection of your dad. I think he is somebody who would love first like Jesus would. And you would, and your mom would, and your brother will, and your grandparents do. They are people who love first. The greatest command, right? Love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And that is where that acronym had come from that was on her wrist. So I wanted you to know, because there were a lot of things that people wanted to know, and they wanted to know about Mike's family. And so I just wanted to take a moment to introduce to you those that I know the most. And of course, he has extended family, and you're going to get to hear from his brother, and you're going to learn more about that. But I want to transition again. This is so important. You know, sometimes you go to a gathering like this, and the pastor or the minister is up here, and they're sharing about the person's life. Well, I didn't know Mike that well. And I'm not the one that can stand here, but you all have those stories, and I want to harness those stories this morning. And in a moment, we're going to pass around those microphones. And again, please don't hold back. From where you're seated, we're going to share that mic with you. And would you just share those stories? Because your stories will be an encouragement to this family, okay? But for starters, I want to ask Nick to come up. I think Nick is... where's Nick sitting? Yeah, he's right here. And so, Nick, if you wouldn't mind, are you comfortable coming up on stage? Okay, so I'm going to ask Nick to come up here. And Nick has some prepared statements. And I know you love your brother tremendously, and that showed loud and clear last night. And if you could let everyone know more about what a great man he was. Okay, you bet.
Please forgive me. This is 36 years of having the best brother in the entire world. Now, this is completely taking me out of my comfort zone. Talking in front of all of you about how amazing Mike was as a person is going to be very difficult. But the reason I'm doing it is for Mike. Mike would have done it for me, and he would be proud to. So bear with me, please. I'm sorry if it's lengthy. It's just there's so much to share about Mike. Where do I begin? I could literally stand up here all day talking about what made Mike special. The list goes on and on and on. He truly was one of a kind. He was the best husband, father, son, and brother anyone could ever ask for. But most of all, he was my best friend. It is truly unbelievable feeling to hear all of his friends, family, coworkers, former coworkers, and followers have the exact same thoughts of Mike that his entire family does. He was remarkable in so many ways, and the way he impacted people's lives with never even meeting them is something truly special. You know, someone once told me, you can have a conversation with Mike for 5 minutes, and you can just tell how genuine he was and how amazing of a person he was. He loved to help people because he was so caring and just wanted to make a difference in people's lives. Seeing the amount of support we have for Mike says everything. He really did make a difference in the world, and I could not be more proud of him for what he has done with such a short life. It all started out when we were just two brothers who loved each other, loved to compete, and tried to be the best at everything we did. Mike, Melanie, and I had the greatest upbringing and the most amazing mom and dad. I wouldn't trade our childhood for anything. They pushed us to be great, and while Mike sometimes did not understand why our dad was so hard on us, he realized it down the road, and that's a big reason why Mike was so successful. He just needed someone who believed in him other than his dad, and I'll get to that person in a few minutes. My dad pushed and pushed and pushed, but now I can see why. He prepared us for the real world and taught us to never settle for anything but the best. And that's exactly what Mike did. He became the best. After our dad died, Mike took it upon himself to make sure that our mother was so well taken care of. He did an incredible job, and it was so nice to see their bond that they had and how much he took care of her. My mother has endured so much pain over the past 13 years and doesn't deserve any of it. She is an amazing woman and mother, and I know that myself and the rest of my family will fill Mike's shoes to make sure she is well taken care of. I am honored and proud to say that I'm her son, and Mike felt the same way. Mike was incredible at everything he set his mind to, and anything he said he was going to do, he gave it 110%. I truly looked up to Mike in more ways than he realized and wanted to be exactly like him. I even took it a bit far one time, and this is something that no one else but my wife and Tabby knows. Mike had facial hair well before I did. I was jealous of Mike. I wanted facial hair so bad, but all I had was peach fuzz. So I decided to take a black Sharpie and tried to color my facial hair. To be clear, it didn't work out very well, and Mike never let me live that down. But that's just it. I was willing to do whatever I had to be like my big brother. I know he probably got tired of me always wanting to do the things he did, but he rarely showed it. He truly is the best brother I could ever ask for. He took me by his side and was there for me whenever I needed him. A lot of people don't know this because Mike didn't openly talk about it, but he did mixed martial arts for a while. Mike was a very tough man who knew how to protect people, mainly his little brother. I was such an idiot that I wouldn't have any problem talking crap to people in a bar when Mike was with me, because I know he would have my back and protect me. He would just tell people, that's my little brother, and I'll always have his back, no matter what. Even if he thought I was wrong, he would tell me later, but the point is, when push came to shove, he was there. One of my favorite things to do with Mike was tell him dad jokes. Most people know me, know that I love hearing dad jokes and can't help but laugh at them. Mike used to just laugh at them because I was, and then he would jokingly say, "You are so dumb, Nick." I'll never forget the first joke that made his podcast, and I could not have been more proud. The joke was, why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. Mike genuinely laughed at that one, and I remember his co-host on the podcast made fun of him for how hard he laughed at it too. I have so many memories with Mike, from playing sports, fantasy football talks, working on cars, playing bags, video games, or watching Old School every night while we drank beer, or just talked for hours. Mostly talking, some arguing, because we were both incredibly stubborn people and always wanted to be right. I think everyone wonders where we got that from. One other awesome quick story is when my parents took me and Mike to New York to see Yankee Stadium the year before they tore it down. We went to a Yankee game, which was incredible, but the best part of the trip is when Mike and I decided we wanted to go to a place called CBGB's. It was a hole-in-the-wall place where bands played when they first started out, and Mike's favorite band, Korn, played there many times. So we decided we were going to go there. We contemplated taking a cab, but we thought it'd be fun to walk over 4 miles. We stopped at a liquor store to grab a beer, and the owner of the liquor store said, Just put your beer in this brown paper bag, and no one will bother you while you walk. He said it so convincingly, we decided to buy 40s, and on our way we went. Once we finished that, we stopped at another liquor store to grab another. We started walking again, and we were about 10 minutes away from CBGB's. And all of a sudden, we turned a corner, and there was NYPD. We ended up getting a ticket for drinking in public. But that wasn't the worst part. Since we were talking to NYPD, we said, hey, officer, it's getting late, so can you tell us from here the best way to get to CBGB's? And his response was, I sure can. However, CBGB's closed down for good a few months ago. So not only did we get a ticket for drinking in public, but we walked almost 4 miles and couldn't see what we wanted to. But I wouldn't trade that experience for anything, because while we were upset, I got to spend a lot of time just walking, talking, and laughing with my big brother. Bottom line is I really do have the best brother in the entire world. He has inspired me to be a better husband, father, son, and friend. He's always been there for me, no matter what. What can I say about Mike's friends? They had such a tremendous impact on his life, and he loved every single friend in a different and unique way. We all have so many amazing nights together. We did anything from drinking and watching sports, movies, playing poker, playing pool, bags, working on cars, or just talking about life. They helped shape Mike and made him who he was. In all honesty, I could stand here all day telling people of all the incredible memories we had. You all have your memories with Mike. I would just say, please, just hold them near and dear to your heart and cherish them forever. Since there's so many, as the pastor said, please, after I finish up, please share your stories. We would love to hear either how much fun you had or how stupid you guys were together. One person I have to thank and want to thank specifically is Jeff, Tabby's brother. Over the last few years, Mike and Jeff had such a great relationship, and Mike would tell me all the time how much fun he had hanging out with Jeff, working on their Mustangs, or just talking about daily fantasy lineups. Mike would tell me the things that Jeff would say when he made fun of him, and we both teased and made fun of Mike in the same way. They formed a tremendous brotherhood, and I cannot thank Jeff enough for spending all that time with Mike and being such a good brother and friend to him. As you know, Mike has 2 amazing children, Alyssa and Jonathan. When I said earlier that Mike was the best father, I meant it. He knew exactly what it meant and took to be great. Great doesn't always mean you're going to be your kids' best friends, but when push came to shove, Mike was there. I can recall having so many talks with Mike about Alyssa and the things she went through, and he would tell me constantly, I know she's just young and doesn't understand yet, but later in life, she will. He would tell me that's exactly how he was with our dad. He didn't want to listen, but he saw later in life why our dad pushed him, and that's why he tried to guide Liz in the way he felt was right. People would kill to have a dad like Mike because he cared. It upset him so much when Liz was upset and he couldn't help, and 2, he never stopped trying to get through to her. When everything happened, I said to Liz, I know I'm not your father, and no one can live up to him, but I'll do everything in my power to be there for you and guide you in the way that Mike did. So please lean on me for guidance and support. I will always be there for you. When she told me after everything happened she wanted to come stay with me for a few days because of how much I reminded her of her dad, that made me feel on top of the world, because I can only hope to be half the man that my brother was. I promise, Liz, I will always be there. I love you. Growing up, I knew how much Mike and I loved playing and watching sports. We had such a passion for it, and I always wanted Mike to have a son so he could do the same things that our dad did with him. He now has an incredible little boy, Jonathan. I'm so incredibly happy and grateful that 1, Mike had a son, and 2, that Mike and Tabby created a product of their love. Jonathan is an amazing little boy who loves his mommy and daddy dearly. Mike was really looking forward to teaching him how to play different sports. In fact, he was so eager that he started Jonathan in baseball a little earlier than he probably should have. His attention span wasn't all there yet, but he tried. Jonathan has incredible support, and all of us as a family will continue to watch over and guide him with Tabby throughout the rest of his life. You can already see the impact of Mike on his son. When Mike was in the hospital, Jonathan told his mommy many times that she was the best mommy in the world, and everyone knew he got that from Mike. Mike would constantly tell Tabby how amazing she was, and he really, truly meant it. My heart absolutely breaks for Jonathan, but I know he has a wonderful family in all of us, and we will help him and guide him forever. We are all going to be very eager to see Mike's qualities come out in Jonathan as he gets older. I will always be there for him, no matter what. Last, but certainly not least, is Mike's wife, best friend, and soulmate, Tabby. I knew at some point I would have to let my brother go to someone else. And I knew I would not do okay with that because of how close we were. And oh boy, let me tell you, I was right. When I met Tabby, I did not like her. She was taking my big brother away from me, and I was devastated. But to be honest, I was just searching for reasons to not like her. Mike loved spending time with her, and I initially felt like I was losing him, but I could not have been more wrong. She truly was the best thing that could have happened to him. One of the comments that sticks out in my head that Mike said in Tabby, there is something in the way you approach life that makes me want to be a better person. A person that looks to the sky and reaches for it. Why? Because if someone as wonderful as you can believe in me, why shouldn't I? I will fly, but not alone. You will be there the entire time because you are what motivates me and lifts me. Tabby and Mike had such an incredible marriage, and she truly let Mike be Mike. They were each other's rock, and they always told each other how much they loved and appreciated each other. She pushed Mike to be great, and without her, there is no Fantasy Pros. There is no Mike writing for fantasy sports. He loved to write, and it was Tabby who convinced him to start his own fantasy football website from the ground up. He pushed back and pushed back, saying it would not go anywhere. He finally started it after much push from Tabby, and I vividly remember a conversation that Mike had with me after he'd been doing it for a while. He wanted to stop because he didn't think it was going anywhere. But he told me that Tabby wanted him to keep going and just try a little bit harder. That's when Mike finally got his break and got his first position as a writer in fantasy football. By all the amazing and kind words about Mike, you could see how the rest turned out. He was hesitant to start it, was ready to stop because he was so discouraged, but Tabby kept him going, which is what she did for the entire time they were together. There were without a doubt stressful times with work for Mike, but he would never show it to anyone else, and he would always remain positive. I remember talking to him and telling him, Mike, I could talk to my boss, Jeff, and get you a job as a financial advisor. That's another job he would be incredible at, too, with his personality and desire to help people. But when I told him that, he said, Nick, that's not my passion. I'm living my passion, thanks to my wife, Tabby. I'm so proud of him for doing what he truly loved in this world, but he has Tabby to thank for that, and he did. Without Tabby, there is no Mike. They were an amazing team together, and I am just so thankful for the life that Tabby gave my brother. They didn't just love each other. They laughed at each other, made fun of each other, and just enjoyed each other's company. I'll never forget one of my favorite memories. I was over at Mike and Tabby's place, and you all know how much Mike loves the band Korn. Well, obviously they're very, very heavy, and their lead singer has a very deep voice. I'll never forget, Tabby was cleaning, and Mike turned to me quietly and said, Nick, listen to Tab. She's trying to sing like Jonathan Davis. She sounded so funny, and Mike made fun of her for trying to sound like him, but she knew that was their love. They could make fun of or laugh at each other, and they knew it was all out of love. The love they had was like no other. I truly mean that. Even the fantasy industry recognized it. Obviously, friends and family saw, but it is wonderful to hear people like Mike's good friend Dan Harris, who he did podcasts with, talk about Tabby like he knows her so well. That's because Mike was proud and happy of their marriage and who she is as a person. Whenever Mike could praise Tabby, he would. I know Tabby is going to be lost for an extremely long time, but she has a beautiful daughter, Alyssa, and a handsome little son, Jonathan, that still need her and look up to her. She has unbelievable support from her entire family, and they've been here for her through all of this. I know we will all continue to be there for her, helping her with whatever it is she needs from us. It is going to be so hard without Mike here physically, but I know Tabby, and I know she will think about what Mike would tell her. He would tell her, "Make it happen, T, because I believe in you and I love you." And that right there will push her to remain strong for Alyssa and Jonathan until they're able to meet again. Mike was such a happy person, and he always saw the good in people. He loved to talk to people, mentor them, and do whatever he could to help. He was always there for everyone and tried to change the world. 6 years ago, if you saw the post from Tabby, he wrote something so incredible, just because. He said, "Most people need to be backed into a corner in order to fight back. It takes a tragedy for them to wake up and realize what it is they're fighting for, or what they should have been fighting for. It's human nature." That's the purpose of this post today. Nothing tragic has happened, and I'm not backed into a corner. I'm as motivated as I've ever been, and I'm going to do something about it. I won't stop until I reach my goals. Mike won't quit. That's what I want people to say about me. I want them to say I'm relentless. I want them to know that I need this. And although I may get turned away a few times, I'm that much closer to getting a door open. And that door will open. Why? Because MWQ, Mike won't quit. When our dad was diagnosed with cancer, we had a saying, PDQ, which stood for Pod Doesn't Quit. And when our dad died, we turned it into Pod Didn't Quit. The world just lost one of the best people in the entire world. And with the current state of our country and being so divided, maybe, just maybe, God took Mike so people can hear his story and influence them to do better, be better, and change the world. You can never replace Mike. There will never be another Mike, and up until his last breath, Mike wouldn't quit. Thank you.
And I want you guys to be thinking about something that you may share. And Tabby, I don't know, are you ready to share, or you're ready to share? Yeah? So I know you wanted to stand down here. So I'm going to do that for you. Go ahead and move that mic anywhere you want.
Hi, baby. There's no easy way to start this. In fact, starting this is another layer representing the most tragic experience of my life to date. With that, I'm writing this to you, not because it's my way of coping or dealing with things, but I know that if the roles were reversed, you would be standing right where I am talking to me or about me. First and foremost, I have to thank you. Thank you so much for loving me. I really believe being loved by you was the closest thing to me truly knowing God's love for me here on earth. I felt loved on every level, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. There are so many times that we would be cuddling or holding hands, and I could just feel this intense energy of love being exchanged between us, like we were magnetic. I am confident and also just so sad that I am certain I will never feel or experience this love again. But for over 18 years, more than half of my life, I did get to experience it. I am so thankful for that. the saying is true. It's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. And even in the midst of my sorrow, I can see so very clearly that I am devastated because my love for you is so great and so intense that the pain must equally match it. Intense and so deep. And given the chance to do it all over again, I would choose us every time, over and over. Thank you for making me a mom. I wouldn't have Alyssa without you. And Jonathan wouldn't be here without you. I believe that the love that we give our children must be the closest thing to me knowing God's love for every person that exists or ever existed. Unconditional and never ending. Without you, our children would not be who they are. I'm glad I get to look at their cute little face, an adult-sized face, and see you in their eyes and their smiles and their noses. They have so many of your features. And this is one of the first situations that I've found myself in, and I can honestly say I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to get through this, except I know that I have to find a way for them because there's no other option. And I have to find a way to be strong and figure this out because they deserve the best of me. Our life has been the most beautiful ride. I know that our love is eternal because even death has not changed the love I have for you. And I really believe it does not change the love you have for me. We are M&T, Mike and Tabby. And in my mind and heart, we will always be what we have been. Thank you for all the songs that you dedicated to me. And thank you for taking time to record so many videos and write things that the kids and I and our family will be able to look at for the rest of our lives. Most people are lucky just to have home videos or maybe a voicemail message from their loved one. But just with a quick internet search, I can find a breadcrumb that you left that allows me to hear your voice and hear you tell me you love me. You left behind so many nuggets of reminders for people to go put yourself out there and pursue their dreams, live their life to the fullest, and be sure to love your life and your family. And it's because you put yourself out there that you allowed people into our life and gave people an opportunity to see the real us. And because you did that, our family has more love and kindness pouring out from so many areas of the world in our time of need. And I can't thank you enough for that. Because of you, we have all of them. The song, In Case You Didn't Know by Brett Young, that was the first country song you played for me, and you hated country. You said it made you think of me because you wanted to be sure that even after all the time we had been together, you were still crazy about me. You said that when we threw our 25th wedding anniversary party, we would dance to it. And not that we were ever shy about telling each other how we felt, but I want to tell you some things just in case you didn't know. In case you didn't know, I'm always, will be, head over heels crazy in love with you, babe. The only thing I ever wanted more than anything was to be your wife and spend the rest of my life with you. You were my best decision ever. I've never regretted a single moment of the life we've shared. And even though the loss of you is just horrific, even knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have traded a single second of our time. I would do this every lifetime if it meant that we could be together. I'm a better person because you love me. In case you didn't know, I'm so unbelievably proud of you. I know you always thank me for allowing you to do what you did, but let me tell you something. Supporting you was easy to do. Your gifts and your ability and your light, or whatever you want to call it, is so visible to me. I believed in you with every fiber in me. The only thing I did was convince you that you should believe in you. And once you did that, you just soared. Come here. Come here. Come here. It's okay. Can you sit here while I read this to Daddy?
Mom, I want to open them.
Okay. Supporting you was one of the greatest joys of my life. I got to witness you in action. You would say, so part of me wants to do this. And I would say, yes, of course, let's go. And you then would just do it. Whatever it was, you did it. It was like you had the gas and I was the match. And then whatever you did was the flame. The combination of things is needed in order to create, but I'm just the match. And I love being me so you could be you. Walter Payton said, when you're good at something, you'll tell everyone. When you're great at something, they'll tell you. Do you have any idea the amount of people that are telling you how wonderful you are? So many people. They are saying that even never having met you in person, they feel like they're grieving a friend. People are saying that after only one interaction with you, you impacted their life, and they instantly felt warmth in your genuine personality. And God, to tell you what the people who did know you have to say about you is just the most beautiful gift for me. You helped so many people in ways that I know you didn't realize. But you know what? I'm not surprised by any of it. The outpouring of love for me and for our family has blown me away. But the outpouring of love that people have for you specifically, I'm not even a little bit surprised. You have been grinding for so many years, and I knew that if you just kept doing what you loved, that everyone was going to be able to see you the way that I did. And guess what? They do. Everyone saw you, and no one could miss you. Everyone saw you, and no one could miss you while you were here. But it's the exact reason every single one of us will be missing you now that you are gone. I love you. I love you more than I could ever explain in words. I love the husband and father you are, the brother, son, friend, best friend, and coworker that you are. I love that as a man, you somehow just knew or felt like you knew exactly what path you should be on. Your moral compass was so very dialed in to the exact direction that you wanted to go. Whatever you chose to believe, you did it with such conviction and you gave everything your all. I am so thankful that we have had this life to love each other. I'm so thankful that God gave me you. Because of you, I have your mom and your family, and they're here day in and day out supporting and loving me and the kids. Thank you for loving my family and being a big brother to seemingly everyone. You were always willing to take the time to offer someone a piece of advice if they were interested. They may not have liked what you had to say, but because you are who they are, they would know you said it because you really believe that if they could hear your words, they would be in a better place for listening or taking it seriously. And babe, one of the first things I noticed about you was your passion. From corn to writing to loving me and the kids in our family, I always admired the passion that you had for things in this world. I love that you hate spiders. And I love the memory of us driving down the back road and I saw a spider on you. And you pulled over so quick and you were freaking out. You started jumping all around, up and down, just like Tim Robbins in Nothing to Lose.
No, I want my apple.
Okay.
But where's my apple? Well, can you get my apple?
I will get it. I'm almost done, okay? I love that you hate food that is green, except jalapenos, lettuce, and pickles. And the only way I could convince you to try something new is if you lost a bet and I made you eat it if I won. I love that you said you absolutely hated talking on the phone, but at least 5 times a week you would talk to Nick. I love that you couldn't sit on the ground, like anywhere, and that physically you weren't flexible at all. You couldn't even bend over to touch your toes. I love that when the kids are just getting to be too much and throwing a tantrum or whatever, you would go, all right! Just like Adam Sandler in the movie Big Daddy. I love that we love binge watching our shows, eating pizza and barbecue nachos. I love that you could get up so early in the morning and you had to go to bed early, but you just couldn't understand how I liked sleeping in. I love that even though you were so intelligent and creative and you could draw so beautifully, you were so mechanically inclined and you could just go from working on the computer to fixing the cars and taking care of our home. I love that you took the time to cook for us. Your coconut cream pie, burgers, smoked pork, and barbecue are amazing. I love that when you heard a song that you just loved or felt passionate about something, you would get goosebumps on your neck. I love that every once in a while you would sing to me. I love that when we would be in the car, you would always reach over and grab my hand. And I just love you, and all the things are just the little bits of things that made you who you are. I love that anyone who had the pleasure of knowing you probably considers themselves a better person for having known you. It feels unimaginably hard to even close this letter. I suppose because even now you may not be here physically, I just have to believe that you are with us. I will never get over you. I will never stop missing you or talking to you. I promise that I will never stop telling the kids how amazing you are, and I will never allow your name to leave our home. I will do my best to become the best version of myself and try to be my best impression of you while raising and guiding them to be the best that they can be. I promise I will be strong enough, and not that I even doubt it for a second, but I will try to make sure that when I imagine you looking down on me, that I will know you are saying, "Good job, T, don't take any of their crap." I am certain living this life without you will be nothing short of the most challenging and unfair thing that I will have to do. I will try. Just know that I love you more than anything, more than life itself. Love, 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 love. Forever and ever, babe, until we meet again.
Thank you. You got him. Great job. Others of you have things to share, and we want to give you a few minutes to do that. And then afterwards, I do want to share a story that's found in the Gospels that I think would be appropriate and encouraging. But my friends they've got mics in their hands, and if you would like to share something, just go ahead and raise your hand, and they're going to hand you a microphone, and you're going to get a chance to do that. So there we go.
Mike was my friend. My friend of over 20 years. I knew Mike and Tabby before they got together. That's how long we were friends. So much so that when they lived in Crest Hill in an apartment, I moved across the street. Me and Mike had a friend named Avon. He drove a Toyota Supra. So Mike had the Mustang, Avon had the Supra, I had a Pontiac Fiero. Even though my car was the slowest, I would still race both of them everywhere we went, every single place. We would drive separate. We wouldn't ride together. We would drive completely separate. I'm having an internal battle with myself right now because I feel like even though Mike was a great husband and a great brother, Mike was a great friend. He was my friend. And God took him from me. I know the reason why is because there's something stronger on the other side that he needed him for, because Mike was a warrior. He didn't lose at anything. There was not 1 year that I beat him in any fantasy football out of the 10 years that we played together. I have other stories, but I can't remember all of them right now.
Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it. Who else? Other things that you might want to share. Here we go up front. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, my name's Andrew. Jim is my dad. We're all very lucky that he married Shirley, and that brought Mike and Nick and Mel and Alyssa and Jonathan and all these beautiful people into our life. Got a few great memories. One of the first ones is they got married in Hawaii, my dad, Jim, and Shirley. And that was really the first time that I got to know Nick and Tabby and Mike. But more recently, we took a trip to Florida in February. And I got to know Mike and Tabby even more so then. It was Mike and Tabby and Jonathan, my brother Daniel, my beautiful wife Sonia, and our beautiful daughter Mia, and of course, Jim and Shirley. And, you know, they took us all out there. That's the kind of person Shirley is. She takes care of everyone. She brought us in like family, and Mike did as well. And I felt like he believed in me the way that he believed in himself, and I think he believes in everybody that he sees wanting to do something special. So when we were on that vacation, I was able to interview Mike, which was awesome. You know, my passion is music, and he supported me in that. I'm very happy that him and Tabby got to, you know, come to what was one of the biggest moments thus far in what I'm doing, pursuing music, and he really showed his support there. But I think it was really cool that while we were on vacation, he agreed to do an interview, I think because we were talking about, the subject was how to quit your job and pursue your dreams, something that he did seemingly fearlessly. I'm sure there was some fear involved, as we've heard, but, you know. And in that interview, he talked about his love for Tabby and just what it takes, and you know, he talked about his father and things that he instilled in him. And I thought it was amazing that he took time out of a vacation to just still be inspiring to me and be inspiring to other people as well. And I found out after doing that there's people, you know, I think a lot of us, we knew that Mike had a large following in the fantasy football world, but I noticed after that, and again, you know, after this unfortunate event, that it's even further stretching than I ever knew. Seeing people that I know, you know, that live miles and miles away from Mike, that he touched, that you know, we got a lot of mutual connections I didn't even know about. And I think he was an amazing person. He's somebody that I look up to, and I don't know if I ever told him that, but I want to tell him that right now. I really look up to him, and he's an example that pipe dreams could come true, and I think we all need to look at Mike and everything that we do and understand it can be done if we work hard. And thank you, Mike.
Thank you for sharing. And I know we had a comment up here. We wanted to make sure. Yep, right here.
For a little over 18 years. And through those 18 years, it's been really the last 6 years that our paths actually kind of ran alongside more than just family gatherings. And I'm blessed for that. To be honest, I've never really given a rat's ass what anybody's ever thought but Mike. I've always kind of cared what he thought. The weeks leading up to Mike's passing, I was able to witness how strong Tabby was while she was physically, mentally, and emotionally, and spiritually mustering up the strength to remain as positive as possible, but also while she was able to advocate and fight for Michael. After he passed on Friday, I was sitting there Saturday with Tabby and the family. And I'm not a quiet person. And I was able to just sit back quietly and watch and observe everything that was going on. And I just couldn't help but see the beautiful legacy that Mike has made for him and his family. It was jaw-dropping. The love and the support of so many people, even in death, it is not unseen. Sorry. Even in death, Mike is making waves. And I'm sad that he's gone. But the pain that I feel is that of Tabby, Lissa, and Donuts. The death of one was the death of both. And I know that everything happens for a reason, and God is in the details. And Mike is in a better place, and he's going on to make more cosmic waves. Anything I can do for you guys.
Thank you for sharing. You got one there.
Hi guys, my name's Lexi. Uncle Mike was my uncle, and I have a story I want to share. When we went to go visit Aunt Tabby's mom, we were listening to Korn, and I tried singing along. I knew none of the words. And he said, "You dork, you don't know the words, don't sing along." And Jonathan was sleeping, and I don't know how he was sleeping in this hard rock music. But I looked at him, and I was like, wow, you made an amazing person. And Dunk woke up, and he was singing along, and he knew all the words, and it was crazy. But, yeah, Uncle Mike, I promise I will watch over Jonathan, Alyssa, be there for everyone. And I love you so much.
Thank you, sweetheart. Good one right there.
Hi, my name is Kyle, and I had the privilege of being Tags' co-host on the podcast and one of his best friends. The past week has just been unbelievably hard. And Nick, as you were talking about the dynamic of being Tags' little brother, a lot of that resonated with me. Obviously to a much lesser extent, but that was what Tags was for me, was a big brother. And as I try to move forward now, navigating what it's like not to have my big brother here anymore, I'm sad. And it's incredibly difficult. I miss him a lot, so I don't want to take a ton of time, but just wanted to say thank you to Tags for being there for me through everything. And I'll miss him like crazy.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mike's mom. I couldn't be more proud of my son. 39 years ago, I gave birth to a little boy, and he was a joy to raise. Never gave us any problems, never ran into any trouble. Just was a happy boy. He met Tabby. He couldn't tell me enough how much he loved her, and he couldn't do anything. He couldn't even sleep without her. He said, I can't do this. I can't sleep if she's not next to me. But she has been a rock, and I'm so glad that she's in our family. She's not a daughter-in-law. She's a daughter. There's not anything I wouldn't do for her or the kids, and she knows that. But when Mike quit his job at the bank, I pretty much wanted to kill him. I asked him, I said, do you realize you have a family? And he says, yeah, but Tab believes in me, and she says I could do it. And she worked her butt off to become a nurse, and when she got that nursing degree, she said, you go for it. And that's exactly what he did. He quit a job of a lifetime people would just go crazy over, but he was after a goal. He got to that goal, and he exceeded that goal. So I couldn't be more proud of the boy that I raised. And Fred and I, we love our family very much. And now he's with his dad again and his grandparents. And my best friend Trace, that has been in his life, his whole life as well. So thank you all for coming. The love is overwhelming, what you guys share. And I can't thank you guys enough for being part of his life. Thank you.
On that note, oh, we got one more. Here we go. Go ahead.
My name is Chris. I met Mike Tabby a number of years ago. Both of us drove Mustangs at the time. Wife pulled in the neighborhood, said there's a new guy on the block with a hot car. So what'd I do? I fired up the Mustang, cackled it down the block, and it's been history ever since. It wasn't until I told my children that Mike had passed how much you guys were involved in our life. She said, you guys literally watched them grow up in our basement, drinking pool, or playing pool, drinking beer, because that's what we did, and we did a lot of it. Yeah, we did it good. I do remember one story that I'd like to share. We went up to the bar for Mike's birthday one year. Chaos. And I wanted to do something special for Mike. And they had a DJ playing that evening. And I went up and I passed a note to the DJ. And I don't know if anybody remembers the Miller Lite commercials from back then. But I asked the DJ to say happy birthday to Michael, and that he definitely looked like a lower back tattoo kind of guy. That's really all I got. More stories I can't share.
Well, was he a lower back tattoo guy or not? I mean, his fans want to know.
He had the word corn tattooed on his lower back.
Okay.
And I'm a fairly tattooed individual, but there's one spot on my body that I am not tattooed, and that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate that. Yeah. Alyssa.
Okay, so I have really bad anxiety right now. So I'm not really good with talking. I'm not like him, where he is very open with people. But hi, Daddy. I'm so proud to call you my dad. I may have not shown it all the time, and just like my uncle said, I wouldn't always agree and wouldn't always understand, but I know that one day I will. I was gonna write a letter to you, but you know, I'm lazy, is what you'd call me, but that's not the word. I'm different, but I'm also very similar to you. We were very stubborn people, so when we talk about things, it would just be back and forth. And I'd just be like, that's not right. And he'd be like, yes, yeah, I'm right. And I'd be like, no, you're not. He wrote me a letter of March of this year. Our relationship was on edge because I'm a teenager, you know. I like to make mistakes, and I don't like to listen to my parents. He didn't even have Tabby read it. He just read it to me. And there's one thing I want to say that stands out in that letter, and that's he told him that, he got told at his dad's funeral, because he lost his dad at a really young age, and I really wish I knew my pa more, but And just from what I know that he's exactly like him. He said the best compliment he received at his dad's funeral was that he's a straight shooter. That he told things how they were. He didn't sugarcoat it, and that's exactly how my dad was with me. I want to say something funny. I'll do that. He'd always call me and my best friend, Emma, Dumb and Dumber, because we were dumb and dumber. And he'd always make fun of us, and we'd do the stupidest stuff, and he'd just say, "You're so dumb." Like, and you would think he's serious if you didn't understand his sarcasm, but he would say it all the time to anyone. And I know to my Uncle Nick that he would tell him that he's a child for not eating his crust to his pizza, because there you go, that's his favorite food, it's pizza. I just wanted to say something, but I love you, Daddy, and I'm so thankful for how many people that loved and cared about him, because he was one of a kind, and he didn't like the saying. I'm sorry. He didn't like the saying, "Everything happens for a reason," and he said that in that letter to me. He didn't want that to be a relationship, that everything happens for a reason. He wanted a relationship. So no, I don't believe this happened for a reason. I think this is a really bad tragedy. But I know that he's gonna lead me down the right path, and he's gonna be by my side this whole way. Okay,
Thank you.
I think I'm good now.
Thank you guys for sharing. I appreciate all that. Well, Alyssa, you warmed up there, so maybe you got more of your dad in you than you realize. You'll be taking over for him. And I want to, well, as your dad said, right, what he's known for, he wants to shoot straight. I want to shoot straight with everybody here. And I want to share a story that, Alyssa, I think you'll be proud of. And it's a reflection of the band that you wear on your wrist. And it's a story that I think should be told at every celebration of life service. And it's recorded in the Bible as a hope, as an encouragement to the rest of us here on this side of the eternity. And it's a story about some close friends. Jesus, obviously, is one of the main characters in the story. But he has friends, and they are siblings. And their names are maybe familiar if you're familiar with the Bible. Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. So 2 sisters and a brother. And these siblings were very close, but they were also very close with Jesus. And I know Jesus, created everyone and he loves everyone, but while he was on this earth, they were actually friends. They did life together, like perhaps many of you in this room do. But on one occasion, Lazarus gets very ill. Jesus is not nearby. And this illness, the sisters were concerned, were going to result in his death. And so they sent word to Jesus. And they asked Jesus to come because they had known and Jesus had performed miracles and he had healed people before, and they assumed or had hoped that Jesus would come and that he would do the same. But Jesus intentionally doesn't come right away. He intentionally delays. In fact, he has a prayer with his Father beforehand, God the Father, and he prays that God is going to give him what he is going to ask for. And the story, so you know, is that he's going to actually raise Lazarus from the dead, which is good and bad. But what happens prior to that, I think, is the reason this story is in the Scriptures. And I think it's an opportunity for each and every one of us to really just sort of reflect on what do we believe and what is after life here on this earth. So I'm going to pick up this story, and we're in the Gospel of John, chapter 11. John was Jesus' closest friend and follower. He is the Apostle John. He wrote the Gospel of John. He wrote the book of Revelation. That just gives you an idea of who he is. And John is recording this story because he is one that is gathered at this memorial service for the death of Lazarus. So Lazarus has passed away, and now Jesus and his disciples are arriving, and they're being greeted by the sisters and so many other who came to mourn the loss of their friend Lazarus. And so John tells us that on his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother, which is why you all are here, to comfort Tabby and Alyssa and Jonathan and their family, and it's why many of you are online to do the same. Well, Martha heard that Jesus was coming, and so she went out to meet him, but Mary had stayed at home. Now, I just imagine, as I read this scripture, I'm sort of interpreting a little bit here, but I kind of think that Martha's a little annoyed. They're friends. She sent word. She wanted Jesus to come. Jesus has the ability to heal, and Jesus doesn't. And so I kind of picture her kind of stomping out to meet him as he shows up. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would have not died. But I know that even now, God will give you whatever you ask. And Jesus said to her, well, your brother will rise again. And Martha answered, oh, I know he'll rise again at the resurrection at the last day. And then Jesus said to her, and he says to her something very profound and very important. And he doesn't say this to anybody else gathered at this celebration service, at this funeral, just Martha. Because Martha is this person that is wrestling with her faith. She loves Jesus. She knows Jesus. She's not really sure if he's God in the flesh or not. So Jesus says to her, he says, well, Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. And he who believes in me will live even though he dies. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. And then he says to her point blank, do you believe this? He doesn't ask anybody else. He's not going to ask Mary that. He's not going to ask Lazarus that. He doesn't ask any of the other friends or family that are gathered there. Perhaps they do believe that he is the resurrection and the life. But he wants to know what Martha thinks. And it's a question that I think he wants every single one of us to wrestle with and to answer. You know, your wristband says he would love first. And he is going to show some great, great love here. So, she says, yes, Lord. She told him, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God who is to come into the world. That's what she says. But I'm not convinced that she really does believe that. Well, after she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. The teacher is here, she said, and he is asking for you. And when Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now, Jesus had not yet entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who had been with Mary in the house, comforting her, noticed how quickly she got up and went out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to mourn there. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. I just want to pause and just contrast. I mean, you know, in a family, you have people that believe different things. You know, Martha's kind of stomping out there. She's kind of a little ticked off at Jesus. He showed up late. He wasn't there to do anything. And she's kind of having some words with him. Mary, on the other hand, I mean, she falls at his feet and she recognizes that he's God in the flesh, that he has everything under control, even though her brother died. And you'll notice that Jesus doesn't ask Mary if she believes, if Jesus is the resurrection and the life, because she already believes. There's no doubt about it. Her posture says everything. Well, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in the spirit and troubled. And he said, where have you laid him? He asked. Come and see, Lord, they replied, and Jesus wept. Now, I want to pause here. And I share this story at so many different celebration of life services because, again, this story is about a celebration of life. It's a funeral. It's a memorial service. And I think the reason it's in the gospel is so that it can be shared every time we gather so that we can wrestle with who Jesus really is. But John tells us, because he's on site, that Jesus is weeping. But we already know that Jesus is going to raise Lazarus from the dead. So in about 5 minutes, he's going to raise him from the dead. He's going to get to embrace him again. They're going to high five. I don't know, maybe they're going to drink wine or beers together. I don't know what, but they're going to do life together. They're going to have this friendship back. Yet John tells us he's weeping. And so you kind of scratch your head, and I might be off theologically here, but my guess or my hunch, my best opinion as to why he's weeping isn't what we might think. I think he's weeping because you and I were created for eternity. We weren't created to just live 39 years or 80 years or however long we get to spend on this earth. In fact, the only reason that we're here on this earth is to come to grips with who Jesus really is, that he's the resurrection and the life, that he's the one that died so that our sin could be forgiven and that we could spend eternity with him. See, God created you and me for eternity. And we either get to spend eternity with him or apart from him. That's why it's so important that he's asking Martha this question, what do you really believe? Because he wants to know what every single one of us actually believes. I think he's weeping because Lazarus was created for eternity. Lazarus was a follower of Jesus. Lazarus is now in eternity. He is in paradise where there's no more weeping, there's no more tears, there's no more sadness. And I think he's weeping because he's like, Lazarus is not going to be happy with me, man. I'm going to yank him back into this world where all this stuff is going on. Honestly, Lazarus is going to be ticked and I didn't create Lazarus for this earth. I created him for eternity. I think he's weeping because of what this is going to do for Lazarus, his friend. And I think we need to remember that. So I think that's why he's weeping. There's really not a whole lot. I mean, maybe there are some other perspectives on this, but he's not weeping because he's sad that he's passed away, because he's going to raise him from the dead. So I don't think that can be the case. But anyway, John tells us that he's weeping. And then they say, well, come and see, Lord, they replied. Then the Jews said, see how he loved him, Lazarus, thinking because he's crying over him. But then some of them said, could not he, Jesus, who opened the eyes of the blind man, have kept this man from dying? Which is exactly what Martha was thinking. Martha was still kind of ticked off that he showed up late. But Jesus, once more, deeply moved, came to the tomb, and it was a cave with a stone that was laid across the entrance. And he said, take the stone away. And here's Martha. See, I don't think she really believes yet. She kind of butts in there, and she's like, but Lord, said Martha, the sister of the dead man, by this time there's a bad odor, for he's been in there for 4 days. And then Jesus kind of, point blank looks her in the eye again, and he said, Martha, did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? And again, I think he's really concerned with what Martha is believing right now. Maybe he's concerned with what you believe. He's concerned with what all of us believe. See, the thing about faith, the thing about our faith and trust in God is it's not like our ethnicity. So I'm Polish because my grandparents were Polish. But if my parents were Christ followers, lovers of God, that doesn't automatically make me a Christ follower or a lover of God. This is something that every single one of us has to wrestle with. And that's why, Alyssa, I was so inspired by your wristband. Because, see, there's something going on in your family. And you wore that. And you're like, no, he would love first. And Jesus he's going to love here. He's going to show his love. So, I think Martha, and we don't really know, and perhaps later she becomes a true believer and a follower. But this is the question that he is going to ask every single one of us. What do you believe about me? Because it matters. So they took the stone away, and then Jesus looked up and he said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. And I know that you always hear me. But I said this in this moment so that the people standing here would come to believe. That's why he said it all. That's why this story is here. That's why this exchange with Martha and the raising of Lazarus, it's so that the people who are mourning the loss of Lazarus and who are wrestling with questions about eternity could actually believe. That they may believe that you sent me. That you sent me to die on a cross so that their sin could be forgiven and that they get to spend eternity with me. Well, when he had said this, Jesus called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." And the dead man came out, and his hands were still wrapped with strips of linen, and a cloth was around his face. And then Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." And this story is important for all of us, and I think it should be shared at every gathering like this so that we can be reminded that this life that we cling to isn't all there is. And I know we cling to it, and I know it's familiar to us. And there's everything in you that wants Mike back. I know. I get it. But he was created for eternity. And so are we. And so we have to wrestle with this question, what is it we believe about Jesus? And those who put their faith and trust in him spend eternity with him. And this story was so profound and so impactful that literally just a week or two later, the religious Pharisees, they are so upset because after Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead, we read in the Gospel of John that hundreds and thousands of people all throughout Israel begin to put their faith in Jesus. And the Pharisees have had enough, and it's that last straw literally that breaks the camel's back, and then they set out to trump up some charges to have him arrested, ultimately crucified, and die. But we know how the story ends. He was laid in a tomb, and 3 days later, he rose again. And for those who put their faith and trust in him, we're going to get to spend eternity with him. And I share that story because it's an encouragement. And when we pass from death to life, all of this becomes known. Mike, as somebody who loves God, knows exactly all of this right now. And I think he wants you and I to know it as well. And so I share that story, I hope, as an encouragement to every single one of us. We are created not for this world, but for eternity. And I hope we'll live that way. And that from this point forward, we'll carry many of the things here. We'll become a better person, perhaps more like Mike in some of the things that you have heard, but also more like Jesus. Because Jesus would love first, and he did. He loved us so much that he died on a cross so that our sins could be forgiven, that we get to spend eternity with him. I want to conclude with a prayer for this family. And if I could ask everybody here in person or maybe even online just to kind of extend your hand out to this immediate family, the Tagliere family, that would be just my desire. So Lord God, Lord, we say thank you for Mike's life. You knit him together in his mother's womb some 39 years ago, and we are grateful. And we are thankful for the way that you have ordered his steps, the way that you have used him to be a blessing and an encouragement in the lives of so many across the globe, but in particular right on the home front, Lord, the blessing that he was to his children, and to his wife, to his immediate family. And so we say thank you for entrusting him to us. And Lord, we thank you for this story, your word, that you are the resurrection and the life. And I pray, Lord, that your Holy Spirit would convict everybody within the sound of my voice to wrestle with that this week, to make a decision as to who you really are. Lord Jesus, we ask, you promise to give us your Holy Spirit, and I pray that you would give this family increasing measure of your Holy Spirit. Lord Jesus, would you fill them? As they draw near to you, you promise to draw near to them, and I pray that you would bring them peace and comfort in the midst of such a tragic loss. Lord, may they be reminded that you love them, that they are created for eternity. Lord Jesus, would you be present here? Would you make yourself known to them? Would you continue to use Tabby and Alyssa and Jonathan to be a blessing in the lives of so many? May they carry their father's legacy forward. May their faith in you be just a beacon to so many others. May his life not end just here, Lord, but may it just continue through each and every one of them. We love you and we thank you. It's in your name, Jesus, that we pray. Amen. I want to thank you guys for being here, for being online, and be lifting this family up in prayer. And as I mentioned earlier, Jonathan in particular, who I think is just trying to understand all this. But would you lift them up in prayer all throughout this week? Would you remember special occasions Maybe it's Mike's birthday, September 16th, Christmas, those family gatherings. Would you reach out to this family? Would you call them? Would you send them a text? Would you let them know that you love them, that you're praying for them? Mark it down in your calendar so that we remember to show them our love, all right? Thank you all for being here today.